right. Thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're back to your host.
Thank you, Nighthawk, and welcome to Platos Cave on a wonderful Tuesday night in Australia. Broadcasting for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. And yes, Australia, the land down under. Not a crisis bunker. No, there's no ice wall that we know of. There was an experiment recently done in the Antarctic with some flat earthers and others. And one of the key flat earthers said, oh, maybe she's round. The station is home to fresh, relatively uncensored ideas and conversations. So get into the chat room if you can. There's a whole bunch of people in there, and you will be welcome, I'm sure. The station, though, is not actually supported by any governmental or non-governmental organizations. So, if you're a listener, that means you're it. And if you can donate, please do. If you can't, please tell people about the station. Any kind of currency is good, including, of course, crypto. Today is the 11th of February, 3 days to Valentine's Day, 2025, which means we're 2 months into the new year. And only if it's like yesterday we had Christmas, I tell you. You can catch the cave on the air, on the line, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. Wow. Another good reason to donate or tell people about the station is that the archives are free. Completely and utterly free. Just go in there and consume that content. Before we start broadcasting at you in anger, as we always do, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave.
It is the Dark and John.
And for Dave.
Oh, I don't know why you can't hear me.
Ah, there he is.
It's weird. Dark and John.
Thank you, sir. And for myself, the Iraq people. And we'd like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. I did hear something. I couldn't make out what it was. But then I heard you just fine. So whatever it was.
I pulled the boom down on my headset.
That shouldn't make a difference.
But it shouldn't make any difference because I don't use the boom mic. But anyway, let's just not worry about it.
Clearly, it's a proximity. It's a new science. It's a new science. You gotta love it.
Due to the proximity of the magnetic coils, my short-term memory has been erased, and my short-term memory has been erased due to the proximity of the magnetic coils.
I just soiled myself.
That's a quote from Red Dwarf. It's very funny.
Yeah. Oy vey. Listen, it's been interesting. When hasn't it been interesting? But I've been going through the YouTube things and looked at a whole bunch of stuff. There are a lot of strange things afoot, and there's a lady. There's a new doomsday date, May 27th, I think it is. Yeah, May 27th.
I get a free one this time.
I know, right? And then someone pointed out in the way Americans write it, it's a palindrome, which is true. 5/27/25. It's actually it's not at all. Yeah, no, it is. It's a palindrome. That's only because Americans write the date in a certain way. In Australia, we write it completely differently, and many other parts of the world is written differently. Yet again. But it's interesting reporting that happened recently. And I gotta say, there's some truth to it. And you said, Dave, that global leaders and governments and so forth would jump on board with, I guess, the tramp wagon.
Mm-hmm.
The Trump. Freudian slip, if I've ever heard one. The Trump.
You heard it here first, folks.
The Trump wagon, of course. Gina Reinhardt has told our politicians, you know what she said?
What's that?
What do you think she said?
Well, she went to Mar-a-Lago, so...
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to say that she loves every minute of it.
Yeah, she said, be more like Trump. And I think Mr. Dutton has taken that to heart. He's trying to be more like Trump. It should be very interesting. And I don't like. Oh, then you know how I feel about politicians and billionaires. So it doesn't really matter if I say I don't like him. It doesn't say anything.
But our politicians are so plastic. Are not they're not malleable plasticine. Like Play-Doh, they're not. They're plastic. It's like buying an action figure and you go, well, what does it do? Well, I think it's doing it right now. You know, just lying there wherever you left it. And if the temperature in the room gets hotter, well, they get hotter. If it gets colder, well, they get colder. Whatever they do it. They're just doing it now, and that's what when I see, except for Pauline Hanson and whatever his name was, who have said we're going to wipe 90 billion. That's a lot of money from the government spending in Australia. Yeah, good luck with that. Like we don't have the same kind of rules where you can just sign off something and voila. No. There you go. It's done.
We don't have executive orders in Australia. Everything does have to be passed.
That's right.
As a law. Okay, so yeah,
our media would crucify anyone who, is going to go against the grain.
It does. It's very un-Australian in many ways. But you know what it reminds me of, Dave? Many years ago, I want to say, easily 15 years ago, I was at work, and I was, I think I was downstairs, in the foyer or something. Mm-hmm. And I overheard something. The big boss had come, from the States to visit us here. Mm-hmm. And he said, he was talking about a guy I knew. I'm not going to mention his name, good. But I knew the guy. So, get that guy X fired. Mm-hmm. His name is not X. And the Australian guy, one of the senior managers, said, "We can't do that." "What do you mean? Just fire him." "We can't just fire him." No, I don't like him. Just fire him. No.
There'll be a wrongful dismissal case. So it's supposed to happen.
Every suit. It's funny, but see, this is the difference, right? America, in many ways, is much freer in certain ways, and a lot more restricted in others. Mm-hmm. That was one example. So in America, you can just get fired, right? Now, that kind of freedom for an employer seems, probably like a dream for many Australian business owners.
Yep, it's a great dream
but
come true.
It actually is completely counterproductive, because the people, the workers, even senior people, even knowledge workers, are less likely to speak up. Mm-hmm. Right? And I experienced this myself yet again, right? I said something didn't work. And I said, because I was part of a global team, and I was looking after Asia Pacific, and I said, look, this doesn't work. And they go to me, "Why doesn't it work for you? It worked for everyone else, Mackie. Come on, just make it work." And I said, "I can't make it work." And then after the call, I called my American colleagues, and I said, "Guys, can you just how do you make it work? I mean, clearly I'm doing something wrong, right? I mean, I want to do the right thing here, right?" And they said, "It doesn't work, Mackie." I said, "What? It doesn't work?"
Yeah, but we don't tell anyone that it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean? If we say it doesn't work, we get fired.
Yeah. What are you, mad?
Right. And they get someone else. They get someone in that'll say it will work. So we might as well say it works. So keep our job. Yeah, we just have to do all the work. On top of the work.
To cope with the failings. Yeah.
Yeah. So I go, okay, and see, this is what it's mediocrity and disempowerment it encourages. Mm-hmm. And I'm not surprised now in many ways that America is where it is, right, from an economic point of view. And I look at all these things. The latest thing, of course, Donald Trump did was tariffs on steel, etc. But I think Australia might have gotten a bit of a reprieve, which, in the scheme of things, it doesn't really matter that much to us, because we don't really export that much into the States. It will hurt Canada significantly.
aluminium, sure. Bauxite, aluminium, Coca-Cola we're the source of aluminium for the planet for Coca-Cola. So it's huge.
But the canneries and bottling plants all over the world. So
no, yes, I completely agree with you. We were in a AUSFTA. It's basically an Australian fair trade agreement. It's free trade between both countries, Australia and US, and that's been in place for a long time.
What's his name? I got it in place for us. John Howard.
Yeah, 2005, the 1st of January. So it's 97% of Australia's non-agricultural exports to the US, excluding textiles, became duty-free, and 2/3 of agricultural tariff lines went to zero. So there's still 1/3 of agricultural lines that still have a tariff. I'm sure that this, everyone, all the media are quick to reply to anything that Trump says, but then after a little while you realize it's a lot of bluster to make a deal. And we had our Prime Minister on the news today. I had a 1-hour talk with him, and then I saw the other side of it. Trump goes, yeah, I spoke with the Australian Prime Minister today. Nice guy. He wants an exemption. We'll think about it. Right. That's pretty much it. I'm sure it was already decided they're going to let it roll for a week or two, and then make an exemption because we buy a lot of their planes.
And most importantly, we actually have a trade deficit with the States.
Yeah.
So, and that's what Donald Trump has been saying all along. A lot of people are taking advantage of the United States, etc., etc. Whereas Australia is actually in a deficit, and that's something that he thinks is what he likes. For us, ultimately, we buy what we need, right, and we'll sell what they'll buy. So, deficit or not doesn't really. I don't think it matters that much as long as the trade is happening, as long as we are making money, our businesses can function, things like that, right?
I'm totally sure that it's going to be, we'll have an exemption, and everything's going to be smoothed out and it'll be fine.
Yeah, look, I share your optimism. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And ultimately, like I said, that's not what worries me. He did one thing I was actually, well, maybe not surprised by, but I was thinking, because he does things, Donald Trump that is, sorry. Some of the things are brilliant, right? In my opinion, again, it's my opinion I'm talking here. And other things are complete lunacy. So he said, no more plastic straws. Now, the article that reported that, to their credit...
Straws.
Yeah, sorry, no more paper straws, that's correct. Now, the article, to their credit, and it's actually the BBC, they said that these the paper straws contain a lot of forever chemicals.
Yeah, PFAS.
Yeah, and that's actually really bad in many
ways
for us. So again, to their credit, they actually did mention that, and so going away back to plastic straws. Well, look, plastic pollution is an issue, of course it is. Going back to plastic straws for us is actually a good thing for people. I mean, right? I wonder if Australia, because we have outlawed plastic straws in Australia, to the point that you can only buy them in Chinatown now.
Of course.
Because you can buy anything in Chinatown.
That's right.
So I thought that was excellent. Now, you know what I really want to see, Dave? I really want to see what RFK is going to do. I'm really super curious as to the policies that he's going to initiate. The good work, in my opinion, that he could do.
I'm going to put the warning up. Yep.
Oh no, I do believe that he. He's got it right. I mean, America has got a huge issue with eating the wrong foods, and the entire, I guess the entire food industry, right, is designed to make Americans, and by extension the rest of the world, sick. They're making us sick with the food that we eat. I mean, you go to any supermarket in America, and I did this when I was there. It's not as bad in Australia, but in America, I checked all the items on the supermarket, and the vast majority, irrespective of what it was, contained high fructose corn syrup.
That's right.
Now, that's the cheapest filler that you can find. You know, like it's F-grade meat, or no, milk with vitamin R. That's what you
But
want.
I drink plenty of milk.
Yes.
Milk.
Look at my hair fall out. But it is really interesting to see that this will actually happen. Now, again, like with any politician, you will agree with some things and you will think other things are completely insane. Now, I think the Middle East policies that he's pursuing are horrendously misguided, right? And I know what he's doing. He's of course, he's completely and utterly behind Netanyahu and Israel in this. And he's not wrong that people can't go back to Gaza to live. I said this before and I will say it again. You can't live there. It's a rubble field. But that America would take it over and turn it into some kind of Riviera, or, you know, and where will the...
I've heard those words, yes. Now, Mackie, and I'm going to have a retraction, because my retraction is important to say. And when I said that he never uttered the words, "we'll buy Gaza," I was wrong. I found a clip of him saying it. I can't assure you that the clip is unedited, but it certainly did, you know, he mouthed the words correctly, the video showed it, but I don't know. It could, I'm on the fence because I think buying Gaza that's just another way to give someone money.
I don't. Yeah, well, there's that, right? Now, I don't know if he ever said. I haven't heard him say buy.
I saw the clip myself.
Well, if he said that, fair point. What I heard, there were things like, "We are going to take over Gaza," he said, and then he said Israel is going to give it to us, and he also said before that, he said, we're going to clear it all out. We're going to get rid of the ordnance, like the
That's
US
right. We're going to make it a car park, and then the other thing was we're going to have the Middle Eastern countries, each one of them are going to put money in to rebuild it and to be able to, you know, I'm thinking to have buy-in so that they don't destroy it again. Does that make sense?
Before Israel became a state, Palestine was a protectorate. So there was no Israel. Yeah. There was Palestine. And, sorry, excuse me. And what happened was that it was under British protection, and that didn't work out in 45, 46, I think 46. The British went out in 48. Israel declared itself independent and so on and so forth. Before that, it was part of the Ottoman Empire. But the point is, it's not unprecedented to be a protectorate. Right? That in fact, the entire Middle East didn't really exist prior to World War II as independent states. They didn't really. I mean, I guess between World War I and World War II, when the Ottoman Empire collapsed, that's when these states sort of came about as artificial entities that the French and English created, and then most of those states gained independence after World War II. And does it make sense? Well, it makes sense if there's a plan to hand the territory back to the Palestinians, right? But Israel doesn't want a bar of it, I don't think. Right? They want ethnic cleansing. They want no Palestinians left in Gaza. Ideally, none in the West Bank. Or they already have the 30-kilometer buffer to Lebanon. All the things I said would happen are actually happening. So,
and the other component was, where were they going to live? It wasn't like they're going to move back in. Exactly. They were meant to be housed in other states.
They said Saudi Arabia could do it. And remember, we discussed this, and the truth is Saudi Arabia has got a tent, well, it's not really a tent village, a permanent tent village, big enough to house 1 million people.
Yeah, on the border, isn't it?
They don't share a border with...
no, but it's on their own border.
Oh, yeah. It's for the Hajj. It's for pilgrims for when they go to Mecca and Medina.
Yeah, that's right.
To stay, and but it's fully functional, and they have more money than sense. And the truth is, and again, Trump isn't wrong. They have a lot more money than anybody else in that region. Saudi Arabia is super rich. The UAE are super rich. They could easily afford to put up the Palestinians, but nobody wants to do that for various reasons. Because if you allow the Palestinians in, they're not going to be happy with that.
No.
So they're going to be I guess there'll be unrest. There'll be ornery. There will be upheaval, certainly.
The peasants are revolting.
Yeah, well, yeah, essentially, and it puts their own it'll put their own nation states at risk of I guess upheaval, certainly. Right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
There is I understand why they don't want it. Okay, by the same token, though, this is really what now that it has been bombed as much as it has, and there are no refugee camps per se, right? And in fact, the UN is shutting down, and UNRWA and health organizations are shutting down, and all that. The question becomes, where are they going to go? Where are these 2 million people going to go? Because they can't stay where they are because there's no water, there's no electricity, no medical help of any kind. You can find
shelter in some of the rubble.
Sure.
But there isn't anything there. There's no food. There's no water.
Yeah. Well, food and water, like water is probably the most critical one, right? And there isn't any. So that's right. So what are we doing? Well, that's a good question, and there's no answer to that.
So what we're saying is that camps are the only way to deal with it. It needs to be. It can't stay like it currently is. I think Trump has got a good idea. Whether it's going to be executed well enough is another thing. I think you'll have to. There's a lot of bargaining to get all those angry, the angry mob to agree with each other that it's a good thing to do, and then have them pay for it. I think there's a lot of challenges ahead down that road. Like that's a bumpy road.
Yeah.
It's real.
Well, look,
bumpy.
It's almost.
Do you know what? I think it's a tremendous idea.
Yeah, but look, it's an insurmountable challenge, and the thing is this: nobody, and the Palestinians least of all, they don't want to leave, right? So what do you do?
Because there's no guarantee of coming back, and there wasn't any guarantee of coming back or moving back.
Correct. No, the only people that are going to go back there are going to be Israeli settlers. That's it.
Yeah, that was what was said all along. Now, Mekki, the other thing to do with the Hamas and the prisoners, he's now said local Gazan time of high noon on Saturday. He didn't say high noon, he said midday. That sounds fair. But all I'm hearing in my head is, we'll meet you outside at high noon. That's all I'm hearing. You've got to supply all, not 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever, right? All of the hostages by then, or he says all hell will break loose.
No, what he says is Israel should let all hell break out, right? So he's giving Israel carte blanche to just go and do whatever. Now, that's not going to happen. What's not going to happen is the hostages are not going to be released. The reason for that is, and maybe people don't understand this completely. So people think Hamas has these hostages, right? They do not. They have some of the hostages. There's like 50 splinter groups. It really is like the life of Brian. Okay, it is. We're the Palestinian Liberation Front. No, we're the Liberation Front. No, sorry, what was it? We're the People's Front of Judea. No, we're the Judean People's Front.
That's right.
What? And that's exactly what it's like.
Lately, yeah.
The splinter groups are, it's insane. And so some of these splinter groups are holding the hostages. Now, they are in contact and under the umbrella of Hamas, don't get me wrong. But if they don't want to give them up, then they're not. And it's like it might be 50 people here and 100 people there and maybe 1,000 people there. I'm not talking about hospital. I'm talking about the groups, right?
Yeah.
And what else? You know what else is really amazing? And people haven't really commented about that much. Some have. You know when these hostages are being exchanged and paraded around, and they read out statements like the last 3 men that were released.
I was looked after so well.
Yeah, all that stuff. And it's in a staged area with massive banners of Hamas, which have to be printed somewhere or stored somewhere. So, but they come in these brand new SUVs. They've got the latest automatic weapons. They're all looking pretty well. They're not looking, raggedy.
And they live amongst the rubble. That's
well,
amazing.
do they?
Yeah. No, I don't think they do.
Well, that's the thing. So they're looking pretty good after 1 year and living in supposedly living in a rubble field. They clean up good, Dave. They clean up. So I don't want to make light of it, but you have to look at it. Hamas is nowhere near. Right?
I think we already did make light of it. But yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. So all those brand new Toyota Hiluxes they all drive, the white ones. Yeah.
And it doesn't look like they're at all ready to capitulate. Are they
better sponsorship than we have?
But that's the truth. The truth is that it'll be a long time before they're degraded to the point of no return. Right? In fact, it'll never happen, to be honest with you.
All right. So you disagree with his statement that all hell will break loose, regardless of who the... Yeah, okay.
Sorry, do I think it will happen?
Yeah.
So,
firstly, we have hostages, and you're saying I don't think it's going to... They're going to release any hostages.
No, they're not going to release any hostages.
All of them, right?
No.
Because that's the criteria.
Will all hell break loose?
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially. Because the ceasefire is already crumbling.
That's right.
So there's no way that the hostages are going to be released. So therefore, the second bit, I can see that all hell could break loose. Now the problem, of course, is that hundreds of thousands of Gazans have moved back north on foot. You've seen these massive caravans of people on foot, right? So if they were going to be attacked now, and Israel will say that Hamas is hiding, amongst the people, as they always have said. Now, I'm sure that's partially true. Okay, I don't doubt that. That's guerrilla warfare. That's what you do when you fight a bigger and stronger opponent. You use whatever means you can, just like in Vietnam or Afghanistan, for example. So that's warfare, guerrilla warfare. But it's going to be the people that are going to suffer. And the more you make them suffer, the more you're going to strengthen their resolve against Israel. What we're doing now, or have done, when I say we, the West, Israel, whatever, we have created hundreds of thousands of potential recruits for any organization that will come after Hamas or Hamas-like, or even Hamas itself, to be recruited into their ranks over the next 10, 20, 30 years to wage a war.
Generations, yes. So, the original Iraq War did the same.
Yeah.
That just built an anger against the West.
Completely.
Uh-huh.
In fact, what we could see, I'm not saying it will happen, what we could see is a second coming of ISIS, or an organization like ISIS out of the rubble.
Yeah, that was rebrand.
Yeah, that will. And the thing is this, right? If you have enough, and by now, in my opinion, I think by now you have thousands of people.
That's right. I know what you're going to say.
They're so desperate they will happily, strap on a vest and you tell them where to go and they'll go. And I reckon we've created thousands of those people.
We all live in multicultural countries, unless you're in Hungary. And I have to make that joke every time I mention multiculturalism. I can't help it. And we've made the bed that we're lying in. And all you have to do is upset enough of whoever they are, and that's the threat you face.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
And
Now,
like we're not living back in the 30s or the 40s, like pre-World War II, where all of our respective countries had a very small minority of minority groups. And now, wow, you'll have a look at the cross-section, and it's vastly different. In England, Mackie, the Church of England is now the minority religion.
oh, that doesn't surprise me. Plus, you would count people that declare themselves non-religious, right?
Yes.
Which pushes that
That's
down
right.
quite a bit.
That assists that. Yes.
But this is a crisis of the West's own making.
It is.
Right? We did, when I say we, I mean it's a broad we in Europe. We pursued a colonial policy for a few hundred years, and we left our stamp in many countries: the Spanish, the Portuguese, the English, the French. I said Spanish, right? The Italians, the Germans to a lesser extent because they're Johnny-come-latelys, or the Dutch, of course. And now that's coming to bite us, something fierce, and especially Great Britain, with their almost moronic adherence to the old Commonwealth glory. If you have a Commonwealth passport, you can go to England.
That's right.
No problem. No, we can go to England. Like being Australians, we can just go to England and work there and live there. No problem at all. None. And that goes for all the Commonwealth countries, right? So it's a rod for their own back. Other countries, to a lesser extent, France is pretty bad. Spain is not great. Interestingly enough, it's becoming a problem for the Scandinavian states, even though they never really had any colonies.
Wow.
They've taken on in a lot of migrants, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
So globalism, right? The apparent complete mobility of people around the world to go anywhere, pretty much out of China, out of South Asia, out of the Middle East, out of Africa, out of South America, but even out of America, out of Europe, out of Australia. But usually Europe, North America, and Australia are destination countries.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't know a lot of people, and I don't want to offend anyone, but I don't know a lot of people in Australia, or Europe, or North America that want to, migrate to South Asia, and start a new life because the future is so much better there, for their family. That doesn't happen.
I did have one friend of mine that went to live in Thailand.
Yep.
Because he likes the car scene there.
Well, that's a very specific reason. I can't see a mass migration out of Australia into.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I don't see the same.
Because the economic conditions are just so great, and there's going to be such a better life for my family. Maybe one day, not today. So we are seeing, so in North America, Western Europe, and Australia are net immigration countries. We get a lot of influx, and Japan is very difficult to get into. I don't know if you know that. It's very, very hard to get into. Japan doesn't really have any issues like that because they don't let anyone in.
Only on temporary work visas, and I have a friend of mine that went there to teach English in school, and he loved his time there, but of course all things come to an end and he had to come back. Yeah.
See, and this is really the kicker here. So for the longest time, and when I say longest time, 50, 60, America even longer, probably a couple of 100 years, I want to say, the open immigration policy. Hey, come, give us your huddled masses, you're weak and you're hungry and you're downtrodden. Give them all, come to Ellis Island. That's sort of an expectation that people had of America, to a lesser extent of Australia, to some extent of Europe. But now that we're putting down the shutters, because there's nothing worse for people than taking something away that was given. If you give somebody something and you give it to them all the time, where it becomes expected, even though it's not, it's extra to what you should get, right? But because you're getting it all the time, you expect it, right? So let's talk about even a bonus at work. A bonus is based on performance and the company finances, etc. But if you get it year after year after year, then you come to expect it, and you get really upset if you don't get it.
Oh, I've seen people leave because they didn't get a bonus.
Yeah. But sometimes the economic situation just isn't like that. It's just, what you can do. So, and there's not, the company is not obliged to do this. And similarly, the countries that we're talking about, especially again North American countries, European countries, and Australia, we're not obliged to let people in all the time. We do want to let them because it's good for us here in Australia to get more people in because we want to build up Australia, right? But we don't have to. You know what I mean? We're not obliged. Not really. And again, what Donald Trump is doing, and I know we talked about Donald Trump a lot over the last few bit, but it's important. It is really important because what Donald Trump is doing is going to change the face of the world for a long time to come. Okay, so we need to understand everything. Is he the worst thing that ever happened to America? No. Is it the best thing that ever happened to America? No. But what he will do will leave its mark, and what he has done already will leave its mark, for better or for worse. And I think a lot of things he's doing are great. And I think a lot of things he's doing are completely harebrained. But again, that's my opinion, and everybody will have a different opinion, and he obviously has a different opinion.
That's why I've got my popcorn.
That's exactly right. But unfortunately, though, Dave, this is one of those events where if you're sitting in the front row with your popcorn, which we are, you're going to get some blood on you.
Yeah, people in the first three rows are going to get wet. Yeah,
that's what's going to happen. So, and we are, and it is a very interesting situation at the moment. He's going back to policies that have been American policies, or were American policies before World War II.
That's right.
There's nothing new here. It's not new, but people, like I said before, have gotten used to America in a certain way. Why can't America give us more money for the UN and for health and for whatever?
That's right.
Well, why should they?
That's right.
The thing before the UN, there were organizations like the Red Cross, the Red Crescent, and things like that, Caritas, other even Masons, or there was another organization, I forget now, Rosicrucians. Yeah,
that's right.
That would go and do these charitable works in other countries, even, et cetera, et cetera. Usually funded privately or through grants or whatever. But governments, prior to World War II, we didn't hand out development grants.
No
one did. No, there wasn't a single political entity that gave any money to any African nation prior to World War II. That just didn't happen. It wasn't a thing. Even the League of Nations didn't do that. Okay, the League of Nations didn't have organizations like that. The UN does, and now, for the last 80 years, that's what we've expected to happen. Should it happen? Well, you could argue, it's a good thing, but it hasn't been around that long, right? And now that we're pulling it away, Dave, everybody says, "Oh, these people are going to die, and this is going to happen." Yeah, well, okay, but no one is obliged to do this. You don't have to. You should do it. I think it's a good thing to do, right? But if you decide not to, well, that's your business.
I flicked you a link, which will help. And I've also pasted it into the chat so people can see it. And it's a visual representation of the amount of incoming and outgoing expenditure for the previous fiscal year 2024 in the US. Like, there's big numbers. It is big numbers. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter how big the number is. It's there it is. And it all makes sense. And if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble or even Spotify, then you'll see this as well, and there'll be a link to it in the description. The deficit is only getting bigger, and it's 1.83 trillion for last year.
It will never not get bigger.
Exactly. So, with all of the outbound, how can you get rid of enough of the outbound spend to balance the budget?
At this point, There's no way America can.
No,
Can't
exactly
happen.
right. Yes, and I agree, Mackie, because that was my point. So, with the net interest at 882 billion, that's a lot. It's still it's still $1 trillion away from balancing the books.
But Dave, can I ask you a question?
Go on.
No.
I look forward to the question, you know.
Because we discussed this when we talked about fiat currency as well.
Yeah.
Right? And this is really, and I'm trying to figure out. So the government, any government, goes to borrow bank from a central bank.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, what they're saying is, here's a piece of paper that says, I need $1 trillion. You go and print it now, right?
Yeah.
Now, they're not going to a government printing facility, okay? So this is not the government's money. They're borrowing it.
It's a private company.
That's right. So at interest, etc. So now they're holding these debt bonds, and anything they print is debt notice, really. Any currency out there is a debt notice. So, especially since they did away with the gold standard. But
sure,
who are they paying this interest to?
Private company. The Reserve
Who?
Bank.
But who? I know I'm being maybe a little nitpicky here, but who are the individuals, or who? Because that's income.
I thought you turned into an owl.
Someone is making $882 billion off America every year.
That's a good coin.
Who is this money going to? No, I mean, this. Do you understand? Like $1 trillion. This is just America.
Yeah.
Now think about all the other countries in the world. We're talking hundreds of trillions of dollars.
That's
potentially.
Right. Yeah.
So somebody out there is making hundreds of trillions of dollars.
Because you can't have money.
But that's the point.
Uh-huh.
Where is it, and who is keeping it? Right? Because it's great. It's because you haven't done anything for it.
No.
The thing is this: the government comes with its request to print, and then from nowhere do they print the money. It doesn't come from anywhere.
Oh, it's thin air. That's where it comes from.
It's magic, and this magicked up money. Okay, and I know a lot of economists will say, "Oh, that's wrong, Mickey. You don't understand." No, I will tell you, Mr. Economist, understand how it works. Okay?
Yeah.
You no longer understand how this works. In fact, the people that do understand it, they don't like talk about it.
No. And what was his name? They said he was wrong.
Oh yeah, Greenspan.
Greenspan.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, I had it all wrong.
I mean, all my life I've been okay then. What?
Yeah. Because he was playing the game, and it's no different than someone who is a devout religious person who lives by the words of their religious text. So they're so bought in to everything and the minute meanings of everything, and you just go, you know what, that was translated 7 times. Have you put a song into Google and translated it just once? You lose all of the idioms, all disappear, all the parables don't make any more sense, and it doesn't make any sense to anyone. All the real message is lost. So, do you still believe in it now? Oh, shut up, man! Right? So this is the same thing. So, I know it's not at all, but I see this in the same way, that borrowing more money waters down your fiat currency. The value of it goes down. When you have people come into your country as immigrants, that is supposed to put more flavour back into the cordial that you've watered down. That's an easy way to put it. But you're right. If the people who were due, or that you pay the interest to, they've got more than enough money never to ever have to do anything with it ever again. They could just go, you know what, you don't owe us anything, and just turn the debt off.
And that's really the thing, right? I mean,
and what happens with digital currency, Mickey?
Well, at that point it becomes completely unaccountable.
That's right.
But there's no way out of this. Okay, you can never pay for all the things, because you've put yourself into a death economy and a death spiral now. Okay, you're overspending by such a margin that you can never produce enough in the economy to ever get rid of the debt, ever.
It's impossible.
It will not happen.
In the past, Mickey, global wars have helped wipe out the debt.
Yeah.
Both sides would have borrowed during the war, and then who pays it back? Oh, it's kind of just, oh, well, don't worry about it. Well, you'll need to borrow more money though to rebuild, won't you? Yes, great. Let's start from that.
Well, see, at that point you have a chance to do it differently. I mean, if you let's take a younger dryas event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say something that's going to happen tomorrow.
Let's do it again. That's
tomorrow.
Well, yeah.
Well, if that were to happen, then everything is gone, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
everything, literally everything.
That's right.
And you have to start from scratch. And ideally, you don't let this happen again, right? I don't think this happened
the last
like this
time. Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying this is because of the things that were built,
Mm-hmm.
and the skill, and because once you get into a death economy, you start becoming really sloppy and trying to make more and more money for yourself, and the things that you build or produce are becoming less and less quality.
It's your own Ponzi scheme.
Essentially,
where
yeah.
you're the person who's going to get the benefit from the money that you put in, but you can never get all the money out.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the, sort of like our civilization is building well below quality standards.
Totally.
It just is. It just is. Okay.
Mhm.
Very few things are built to last these days. Very few things. I mean, even skyscrapers that you see going up now in big cities, they have a life of 20, 30, 40 years, maybe.
That's right, max, yeah.
Before that, unless they're iconic, right? I mean, you could have argued that the World Trade Center was a demolition job because it had to be done. It was too expensive to pay for, so better to blame some terrorists. Yeah. Oh, well, that would have cost an arm and a leg.
Yes.
So we are in a position where it would take a younger dryas event to rectify everything, unless we wake up collectively tomorrow and say no more.
Yeah, that's a good way to do
No
it.
more. But that won't happen because we're too indoctrinated, and we think this is life. We think this is how. Yeah, okay, that's normal. No, it's not normal at all. Even when America was first founded, this kind of deficit would have been unthinkable. There was just enough money in the economy to make the economy work.
Yes.
The greenback, that it was
right.
prosperous, right? It was just great.
I love those beautiful words from
Right?
back in the day, yeah.
And the Bank of England said to King George, hey, this is no good. What? Where's our cut? Right?
They seem to be completely happy on their own without us.
Yeah, let's go over there and tell them to stop it. So forget the Boston Tea Party and taxation
right.
without representation.
Yeah.
This was about the right to issue your own currency. This was
That's right.
But look, Dave,
Uh-huh.
I love this visualization that you sent through here.
It's really good.
It's terrifying. Yeah, it is fantastic. But I mean, you think about it, $1.83 trillion deficit.
Uh-huh.
Um,
So imagine you've just sat in a chair. You've just won the election. You sit in a chair and you go, "You really? It's worse than the last time."
mm,
So wouldn't you want to do something about it? I think that's the power of seeing it like this. Because all the bureaucrats that are all just in there, they're all cogs in the machine, just making the current machine in its current design work. It's like, oh, I'm sure there's a better way. Like, we'd be minutes away from universal basic income, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the CBDC, we're minutes away in geologic time from having it, or economic time, because I can't see us breaking this to get away from it anytime soon, unless something major happens. And I don't mean Trump major. I mean big.
Oh, world changing geologically. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I agree. At which point everything becomes
Null and
completely
void
arbitrary.
anyway. That's right.
It's a moot point. What are we talking about? Oh, it doesn't really matter anymore. Right.
Hey,
it's just.
I know we've only got a few minutes left, but I did want to bring up something. Santorini. So I have been watching.
Oh, yeah.
I've been watching this, and in the last 30 days, they have had 8,918 quakes.
Wow.
And I've got it. If you're watching this on the stream, you can see it. So the number is 8,918 quakes in the area. But a main point here is there was this. I've got a news story here. It says earthquake swarm emergency in Santorini after thousands of quakes. But then the story is just basically hosing down the idea that it's bad. Oh, it's always happened. It's always been a thing. You know, they're no stranger to earthquakes. These are all subtitles within the same article, and it's on the, what do they say? They say that it's happening because of the subduction zone, and that's interesting because it isn't. The subduction zone is like 400 kilometers south where the tectonic plate is. It's not happening as a direct result of the tectonic plates. It's not on the plates.
Mm-hmm.
There are faults because the land is getting crushed, but it's not right on the edge like you see all around the rest of the world. And I've got two maps up. One is the actual location, and you can see where when the sea level rose, it flooded all this area in. And as we know, Santorini itself to be another volcano, the actual location of this huge amount of quakes is a supervolcano.
Mm-hmm.
And if it were to blow, and I've got to zoom out so much you can't barely even see the Earth, with all the quakes that are listed above 4.0, it's just crazy the number of quakes and what the potential for this is. If it, I'm not saying it's going to, because it's tectonic. Well, it's not. It's volcanic. So can I predict it? No. But I mean that if this were to blow, and you can see there's a depression around there of the supervolcano, if it were to blow, it would ruin Europe.
Oh.
Almost entirely. All, through Greece, probably England, probably go right across through China, depending on I think that would be the direction of the ash plume. I can't imagine it being good for anybody in the local area at all. So it could cause the northern hemisphere to, lose a couple of degrees in temperature on average for the next, 5 years or something, or worse. Mass migrations could be a thing. I don't know, Mickey. I'm not going to claim to know anything, and I'm not causing panic or alarm. I'm just saying this is something to watch.
And I agree. I think
most of the quakes are 10Ks under the surface.
Yeah, there's
recently in the last week they've been climbing up to the surface, so we'll have to see.
Yeah. I wonder if, and I'm not saying it is. I'm just wondering if these activities in Ring of Fire elsewhere as well,
Mm-hmm.
but especially tectonic, volcanic, etc. activities are contributing in some way. And I'm not saying it is. I'm wondering, right? Are contributing in some way to the warming that we experienced, because 2024 was again the warmest year since record began.
Yeah.
And again, each year before that had been the warmest year for the last 10 years, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And we have, in fact, now broken the 1.5 degree record on average across.
Yeah, where we are in Australia, we're more likely to have broken the 2, but on average as a global temperature, it's I think 1.5 they advertised. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So, yeah, sure, the planet's getting warmer, and we have to make do with its new existence and our existence in it. We have to understand what that means, and there should be changes. I'm not saying that we need to cut carbon out everywhere. That's different.
No, that's it's we need to find our way back to live in a non-throwaway society. And because climate change may come with or without us, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Do we contribute? It's impossible to subtract us from the equation because we're in it. We can't view ourselves as outside of it. Are we the driving force?
We don't have
Maybe.
control. That's right.
No, we don't. Yeah, and certainly we burn a lot of coal and all these things. That's all true, right? But forest fires are quite significant in this as well. Make no mistake. So there's an effect that humans have. I don't think it's entirely humans, because we've had warmings and coolings over the last few hundreds of millions of years. It's not new. None of this is new, but it's happening while we are here, and we're used to very short time frames, and we've had pretty good climate. The weather has
no minutes left.
Oh, okay, we're done, eh?
I'd say so. The music should start any second.
Okay, hey, look, this has been Platos Cave. Thank you so much for spending this wonderful hour with us. If you have a great breakfast in front of you, enjoy it. If you're going to sleep like I am, enjoy that as well. We will talk to you again on Thursday and Sunday again, as well as Shiny Side Out. But in the meantime, Dave,
be safe. Look at that perfect timing.
Beautiful.